Not all Airbnbs and short-term rentals are successful, but there are a few tricks to make sure that you will be, and today's guest cracked that code and continuously hits copy and paste on his next properties to become even more profitable on the next one. He has created numerous viral stays and has continuously picked new markets while also making sure to stay ahead of the competition and be more profitable than most of the stays around. That is what our guest on Bigger Stays did today, and he's here to teach you the secret sauce to marketing, finding the right market, and creating that magic that is needed to become some of the most profitable short-term rentals in the nation. Let's get into it. Running short-term rentals is constant work. Guest in, guest out, and you're still expected to be your own bookkeeper? I had multiple listings going and no real way to manage the money that was coming in. Between flipping beds and trying to match receipts from a payment a month ago, I couldn't even know if I was making real money. That's when I found Baselane. It's the official banking platform of Bigger Pockets, and it handles all of the tracking and reporting I used to do manually. Now I can see real-time financial reports for each listing and know if there's a problem that's arising. For example, last month I had a 300% spike in my electric at one of my properties, and I realized that I needed to do something. I quickly set up a smart thermostat inside of it, and my electricity bill was cut almost in half. Thanks to things like Baselane, I avoided losing my profits and actually getting them back in my pocket. Start protecting your profits today by signing up at baselane.com/BP, and you'll get your $100 bonus right when you sign up. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bigger Stays. My name is Garrett Brown. I'm the resident Bigger Pockets STR expert. And today we have another expert in the field on, Mike Sebastian from the Hideaways. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, super excited to chat. You've had some of the coolest stays I've seen, and I've seen your places pop up on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere recently. And I'm a huge fan of anybody that really can channel into those type of avenues, because we know how valuable that is. As you know, I don't have to tell you anything you don't know. So let's just start real quick with your beginning story and what led you to, short-term rentals and real estate investing. And then we can get into like how you've been crushing it recently.
So I did marketing for a long time, about a decade. I had a marketing agency, and it was fun being in marketing, but it's just constantly changing. So I realized about 10 years in that I had a good business with great cash flow that had no tangible assets, and in my view at the time, no equity in anything. So I felt like if I stopped, it would all just fall apart and disappear. So I wanted to change that, and I wanted to take the cash flow that I had and roll it into something that was a little bit stronger, like real estate. Everybody that I knew that had done well in life, that was living my dream life, had some sort of real estate investment. So I decided to go that route. The short-term specific was because I also used to be a bartender and a catering manager and did a lot of hospitality. So I was like, I kind of liked the challenge of trying to really please people and win them over.
We have some similar backgrounds then, because I did marketing for a long time between music and some other things there, but I also was a bartender. I went to school for hotel management. So I always wanted to figure out the creative route. So did you start with short-term rentals, or did you try something else in real estate first?
So I had one long-term rental that I had in Federal Way, Washington, a little bit south of Seattle. And it was the easiest decision ever because my mom, her work was paying her rent. And she was living in a 400 square foot apartment that was furnished for $3,300 a month. So I had enough money to buy something, but I didn't want to stay in Seattle. So I was like, why don't I buy you a house and you rent it from me, and then your work will reimburse you that. So it was just an insanely high cash flowing long-term rental from day one. And after that, I went out to Spokane and bought 2 houses out there specifically for short-term, because they found a much better, I guess, less restrictive market and a lot of different inputs for the short-term side. And the houses are about half the price. So that was where I kicked off that side. And then from there, it kind of just escalated, I'd say.
Hopefully it was an easy tenant on the long-term side. Then it sounds like it. So do you still have the short terms in Spokane, however you pronounce it?
Yeah. So the one in Federal Way, the long-term, I have the two in Spokane are actually for sale right now. I've since left Washington and decided to start liquidating that portfolio. So we're doing them one at a time. We actually just put those 2 up for sale about 2 weeks ago. Relatively new development.
Hopefully next time we chat, they're sold and you're going into your next ventures. And is that when you pivoted to the more unique stays that you've been building with the Hideaways recently, or was there another stopgap in between that?
So there was a stopgap in between. So I kind of leaned on the unique side because the marketing world leans so heavy on that, right? So everything we said on Facebook and Instagram ads years ago, it's like, don't do anything square because Facebook and Instagram are square. So you put diagonal lines. You don't go blue and gray, you go orange and yellow, right? So anything to make it stand out is what I was looking for just naturally from that marketing world. So we found, myself and another business partner found a property in Hocking Hills, Ohio. Didn't know much about Hocking Hills, but knew it was a good market. Found 12 acres and 5 properties out there, or 3 properties, and built 2 tiny A-frames. And that was the introduction into the unique side. They are 140 square feet, and they were, I think, 55 grand to build, and they make 65,000 a year. All of a sudden, it was like, wait a second, like the cash on cash on that is like higher than anything I've seen. Like, it doesn't make any sense why we wouldn't keep going this way. So after that, I actually went to Blue Ridge, Georgia, with a friend and different business partner that, since we don't work together anymore, but we were looking at a house for him that I didn't think would do very well because it was what I call like a standard boring cabin. Great cabin. I would live in it in a heartbeat, but it wasn't going to do good as a short-term rental. I didn't think. While we were there, we rented an Airbnb, and the Airbnb that we rented was downtown. It was 600 square foot. It was fully furnished, like looked super cute. It used to be a bus station. Absolutely adorable. What we did is my business partner on the property management side needed to invest her funds. So I called her and I was like, we need to buy this house. And then the other business partner that I was staying there with wanted to get the other one. So we bought 2 houses simultaneously, one with one business, one with another. And the one that I thought would fail was, it was just miserable. Like, just getting it to break even was so much work. So what we did is we bought both. The small one that I was talking about has crushed it. I mean, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month. It's a 2-bed. It's insane, like what it does. And it does it because it's different. It breaks the mold, right? So it's exactly what we expected, or what I expected with that one. The other one, what we found is nobody can afford to live there because there's too many short-term rentals. There was a need for affordable long-term housing. So what I've done is just converted that one into another long-term, and it's done really well for that.
Lots to unpack there, because you said some great things. And I think the one first thing that jumped out to me, because I've felt the same with, my marketing background as well too, is, to get people to stop scrolling, whether they're on TikTok, Instagram, Airbnb. If they're going to stop, it has to be something that sticks out. And the better the product, the easier it is to market. People are like, oh, I can spend a bunch on Meta ads and Google ads and all this. And it's like, if your product isn't interesting, you're just going to be burning money most likely, so you hit that on the head. When did you get into Hocking Hills? Like, what year was this, if I can ask?
June 23.
You probably were a little ahead of the curve there, because Hocking Hills has exploded. How did you know that was going to be a good market? You seem to be hitting some of the markets that have started. Like, how are you, give a little secret sauce. You don't got to give your full recipe, but I'm curious because you're hitting the good ones.
It was good partnerships, to be honest. I joined a mastermind. So after Spokane, I was like, I need to actually learn more about like the reporting and cash on cash and return on equity and all these different terms that people were throwing around that I didn't understand at the time. So I joined a mastermind that's no longer in business, but I met 3 people while I was there. And I would say that those 3 relationships were worth, every single bit of that mastermind. And in that, we started researching. We wanted something rural. We wanted something near national parks. We wanted something that was low on restrictions, because I see all restrictions as getting higher in the future. So if it's already high, I didn't want to like go crazy and get banned out of a place. But we kind of put those criteria together and then found, a couple markets that we were really happy with. And Hocking Hills was one of those. And I will say, like, that place is phenomenal. Like, just watching the tourism go up every year and learning some of the backstory. Someone in government hired an individual to send out emails and just say, hey, this is what's going on in Hocking Hills, to an email list. Obviously grew their role a little bit as well. It wasn't just emails in the long run, but it basically grew them from about 2 million to about 5 million people that visit there every year. And over the course of 5 or 6 years, and it has just taken off. And it is such a beautiful place. Like, I love it up there.
I haven't got to go yet, but I've seen, some of the coolest ones, like the coolest properties you see are up there.
The Dunlaps and the box tops and all those.
Oh man, all of them. Yeah. I've been in STR since like 2018. And to my knowledge, I'm sure there's a few out there that I'm missing, but that has been one of the most explosive markets I've seen. So y'all nailed it on the head. Do you still operate out there?
We do have that property. Basically, when we found where we're doing everything here in Kentucky now, as soon as I launched the first property there, I was 100% focused on it. It just like absolutely blew my mind. And what it was missing is we're a little bit behind Hocking Hills, like in terms of the infrastructure and the advertising that they're doing. But what it was missing was those key players that you're talking about. The competition down here, it's like grandma's cabin, grandma passes away, Joe got it, Joe doesn't know what to do, he heard about Airbnb. So really taking, good design, good exterior and interior design, unique stays, anything like that, and building them here. We already had everything else that we needed, and there was no competition. So I didn't want to take the easy way out necessarily, but I was like, man, if I could get a head down here before, those professionals up there come down, like that'd be awesome. And that's exactly what happened.
You hit it on the head. You saw that, you saw the signal, but there was no saturation. Like if these old, just kind of random grandma's cabins, like you call them, like are doing okay, then a professional that comes in with the design is going to crush it. And shout out to Hocking Hills for actually growing their tourism, because I pay so much in tourist tax to some of the cities I operate in, and I get so mad when I don't see them do anything in terms of that, like marketing the area at all.
They're just taking and not pouring back into it.
Absolutely. And they wonder why, like why they can't keep getting the traction that some of these other places get. So if any small towns are randomly watching this, please take those dollars and reinvest into it. And I guarantee you're going to go there. So let's talk about your new Kentucky project, because they're awesome. Like I said, again, I see them online with different massive social media growth. What was your signal there? Or any other reasons besides you just seeing a few cabins that were doing okay there that drew you to that market? Or what was kind of your thinking with that?
Yeah, so we look at the ratio of tourism to Airbnbs that are there. I had one in Blue Ridge that was successful. There's 5 million people that visit Blue Ridge, and there's 25,000 Airbnbs. That put us at about 0.5% ratio. So I wanted everything under that, right? I don't want anything else there. I believe that market is relatively saturated, and in order to win there, you've just got to be the best, right? And there's a lot that goes into that. So we're looking for some markets that were under that mark, that were high tourism, right? The competition was not going to be the top of the top, but you could have some decent. I'm not afraid of competition, but I wanted to make sure that it was easily to attain while we're simultaneously learning the market, putting together processes, that kind of thing. So me and a buddy actually challenged ourselves to find a market in the United States and then come back and compare those two markets, right? So we had 3 weeks to do it. We were looking through AirDNA and having all these different metrics and tools that we could use, looking on the SDR Insights reports and trying to find like everything that we can find. Ironically, we both found one market. He came back with Stanton, Kentucky, and I came back with Campton, Kentucky. And if you know anything about Stanton and Campton, they're about 2 minutes apart from one another. So I was like, well, we're on to something, right? We found something here. And at the time, I think 500 Airbnbs here and just about 1 million people that visit every year. So the ratio of Airbnbs to tourists was fantastic. There's enough to do, but there's still a lot of room for growth in those markets. And when I looked at the competition, like I said, it's all of them were like grandma's cabin. They're all just, tongue and groove on the side, a plaid couch, put a TV on the wall, call it a day. So I looked at the numbers first, and then I rolled into, do I think I can beat the existing 500 that are there? And the answer is yes to every single one.
I named Stanton, I think number 3 in my favorite markets a couple months ago. And it's probably because a lot of y'all have done over there too to boost it up. So, props for that. Cause it definitely, y'all hit it on the head. And it's funny that y'all are able to come to a similar conclusion, and the way y'all looked at it is exactly how some people should view markets around and see what the numbers are versus the tourism versus what is your competition there. Because just, there's different levels to it. And, I don't know if you're familiar with the Big Bend Terralingua market kind of a little bit.
Big Bend, yeah.
It's changed a little bit, but that's a good example of like, they don't have an insane high amount of tourism. They get a decent amount, but their competition level's a lot lower versus going to the Smokies or something like that, where, they're getting 20 million tourists, but you've got 20 million, professional hosts out there too.
The other thing is people in like, when they enter a new market, they're scared to go all in, which makes sense, right? I personally was scared to go. I'm not going to go out and spend $600,000 on a house when the average cost is $2. And until you really realize that you're there. So I think everybody, regardless of their experience, is going to inch into that market. Right. And that's what we were looking for there, is as we inch in, as we get our feet wet and really get some confidence there, like, are we going to be able to succeed? Because I don't want to go to, like you said, the Smokies, right? If I go out to the Smokies and I buy that same house that I bought out in Blue Ridge that I knew wasn't going to do well, like, I'm immediately going to have a bad taste for the Smokies. Right. And it's not necessarily that. It was the fact that I didn't go all in with it. Whereas now, after we've seen a few of these, we've got 19 now. And after we saw the first few that were taken off, it's like, oh my gosh, like, whatever we can do, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're going to do it as unique and bold and awesome as we can out there.
So let's talk about the unique and bold strategies you implemented there. Like, talk about your first deal, or like kind of how you got your feet wet in that market and what you've seen from there.
So the first deal was on Zillow. And that kind of just propelled us into these connections in the area. Ironically, my realtor was actually 2 hours away. So I went out there a bunch and just talked to the builders. The builders were selling it. They had a realtor who got sick. So it put us in contact with each other. And they've since built us 7 more houses. So just getting that relationship was great. But the first one it was really proof in the pudding of you can take anything and make it stand out and make it a good property. It was a office that was in London, Kentucky, that they put on the back of a truck and they shipped out to the gorge and put on a lot in the foundation that they built. And then they basically did the inside. It does look like a cabin. It's what I call a standard boring cabin, but we took a new approach to design. So we had hired a designer and told her exactly what we wanted. And we've got cowskin rugs and leather couches and all this stuff. And it just looks really, really good. And then we hired Shelby Wilray first and Brandon Yoder after to do photos. And their photo style is just second to none. So taking that, putting those photos in, and then pushing it out to Instagram and TikTok has really propelled that property up. It was a $298,000 purchase, and it does $80,000 a year right now. So just base numbers, like it does absolutely fantastic. There was one that went for sale beside of that. Actually, I showed the builders the Dunlop Hollow A-frame, and I was like, I really want to do something similar to this, right? I didn't have the cash at the time to do it, so they built it. And they literally took the photo that I showed them, and they built the almost, it's not the exact same thing, but a very similar concept to that. And then my current business partner, Jordan, he was like, I'm going to buy that house. So he 1031 out of a place in Texas into the A-frame there. And that property is 150, 160 grand a year in a market that averages around 40. It is just absolutely crushing it. So then he got a Redfin alert about these 3 cabins, Rockhaven hideouts, that was going for sale. He had actually looked for it the day prior, put an alert on, and it went for sale the next day. So we went out and snagged those. And those have been our most fun, unique launches to date, and we've got 3 more coming later this year. But those, what we did is we put a hot tub. They're pretty standard cabins, like they're really well designed, really well done. But we were out there looking at with our builder at where we could put a hot tub. We're like, we need to add a hot tub. Let's do this. And Jordan and I were bold, but not as bold as we wanted to be at the time. And we were like, oh, if we like put it over here and we'll like shape the deck around this rock and we'll add like a sauna to the back and do all this stuff. And the builder looked at us and he's like, why are we going to put it here? And I was like, where else would you go? And he's like, let's put it on top of that rock. And I was like, hold on. So we like kind of reinvented exactly what we were talking about. And we put a hot tub on top of a boulder. So it's 20 some feet up in the air with a big platform and whatnot. And that took what we like to call the worst to first. So it was our worst cabin out of the 3, right? And it immediately made it first. And it just completely changed the revenue numbers that we were getting on that cabin. So we decided to do that again. Took the profits from the first one, did that on the second one. Only this one was up a cliff face through 2 rocks. And then you get up there and you've got like a big platform for eating and sightseeing, and then a hot tub a couple steps down below. And it did it again. And we were talking like the worst months that we had there were like $1,500-$1,600 a month for one cabin. So they did well. They were paying their bills and whatnot, but we always had one that was just the negative outlier. That same cabin did $9,000 the month after we launched that. Yeah, it's 400 square foot, 2-1, or it's a 1-1 with a loft that we've turned into a bedroom. So that it just really proved the model. And the more bold we've got, the more unique we've got, it really has just taken off. So now we have 6 silo houses is what they're called, or what we're calling them. But it's basically these grain silos that we took and put right in the center of a house and then built everything around it. So while you're sitting in the living room, you're looking at the side of a grain silo. It's painted and nice and modern and all this. And there's 6 of them making up a community in the gorge. And that goes, we actually get keys to the first 2 August 1st. Coming up next month, they'll be launching in September, October, November. So
a ton of gems you just dropped there. So we'll dive into them real quick, because I've seen the rock build with the hot tub you've talked about multiple times. It's beautiful. It's one of the coolest builds I've seen. And I'm sure you probably can attest to this, that one feature when you're doing your social media marketing, is that usually like what y'all lead off with some of y'all's videos that have gone more viral? Have you seen that?
Yeah, very much so.
I teach people, or like, I'm sure the same as you. Like, I tell people, like, you don't need like 20 or 30 just amazing features. You just need one standout feature that you can use every time in your marketing and all this. And y'all did a great job. And we will link to some of your social media and things like that, so people can see it if they're not exactly sure what it is. But how much were those builds for Into the Rock? Just to give somebody an idea of like what a crazy unique build will cost, but also how much it changed your revenue projections in the end.
Yep. So we did the first one that we did was 21,000 plus the hot tub. So it's 27,000 all in. Not bad at all. Put it on a 18-month, 0% interest credit card, did the entire thing start to finish. We actually gave our builder permission for $35,000 and he came back. He was like, we got it done under budget. All right. And I was like, man, who says that? That's incredible.
That is so rare.
It's with the relationships, man, the relationships that we built out there are like second to none. Like it is so amazing. So that one was I think it's 27,000 all in. The next one came in at 22,000 all in, which is wild because it's bigger, longer and whatnot. They just knew what they were doing at that point. So they were able to knock it out a lot quicker, which has been phenomenal. But the first one was the credit card. The second one we paid for with the profits from the first one. And that credit card will be paid off 2 months early. Actually, it's July 1st. So this month.
I thought you were going to say at least 50 or 60, 70,000 or something. I still would have been like, bravo, like that's still a great job. So mind blowing what you accomplished there. And that is just the power of one, your marketing knowledge and just thinking ahead of stuff, but then taking a risk and knowing that these are the features that can take a normal boring cabin into something that is almost life-changing for people. So let's dive into a little bit of the new builds. There's 6 silo houses, correct? Is that what you just said?
So 6 different houses. 4 are 3-bed, 2-bath. One's a 2-bed, 2-bath, and then the other one's a loft. It's just one silo with a loft up top, so it's just going to be a little couple's cabin.
Did y'all buy raw land and build these, or were there already some?
No, we bought 8.5 acres. Honestly, I wouldn't do it any other way now. That was the A-frame, and then what we call the russet were our first 2 like new builds, but the land was already there and the builders had already started them. And then we kind of jumped into the process and bought them there. After that, we realized the build process is just so much more fun. Like you get what you want day one instead of trying to change someone else's house and having to fix all those things and the unknowns. So what we did is we started to just buy land and bring builders in and say, we want it here. We want the driveway to go over like this and like really design the whole thing out. So that's what we're doing now. So we bought 8 acres out there. We're using 4 of them for this silo project. And it's just laid out perfect. Like we're really happy with it. But then we've got down the road, 16 acres and 25 builds that are going in there. They're not all ours. We've sold a lot of them, but we're doing at least 2 where we'll have in there and run those as 2 unique ones as well. One's notebook themed. It's really cool looking. It's like a monoslope with no overhang. So it looks wild, and it's got this like 20-foot deck out on the front and like just super private hiking trails. It's really cool.
Nice. I can't wait to see it all kind of come together. I'll be watching. What are y'all projecting on some of the silos? You know, you got an estimate for revenue coming in possibly on them.
I have a really hard time with some of our performance. I'm very conservative in my numbers.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'd say one of the reasons that they've worked out really well, all of the data that we've been able to pull, just pulling unique cabins, this size, locations, tourism stats, and all that kind of stuff, they expect each silo to do about 130, 140. In my revenue projections, I have 88. So I'm like, let me put something that makes sense just for a normal cabin and just make sure that it's going to take off. But they are something that like just driving up to them. They're 15 feet up on these platforms, but then the hill kind of goes down. So when you're looking at them, you're 20 feet below them and there's these massive structures. And the designer that we have in there has literally left no stone unturned. Like each of them has their own theme. They've all got it's just awesome. I'm really excited about it.
No, I'm excited to see them. And I agree completely. Anybody listening to this, like you can always have a projection number and probably be kind of accurate, but you always want to do the most conservative number. And if it works that way, then obviously it's a slam dunk no matter where you go from there. I want to dive in really quick while we kind of start slowly wrapping this up because you just have a ton of nuggets in your marketing background. I love marketing of STRs. I think that's one thing that I personally think is like an advantage I have compared to others. And I'm sure you can say that for yourself. If somebody's listening to this that doesn't have a marketing background like us, what are a few tips you could give? And say they have a somewhat average build, but they can make some changes maybe. What is your advice for somebody that is looking to, boost their marketing side of the short-term rental world?
Essentially, like what we look at is amenity stacking. That's what we call it. So the cabins that we have out at Rockhaven, they're semi-unique. They're just standard like Adirondack style A-frame, but they're cute cabins. But what we wanted to do was put something there that would scroll stop, right? So when we call it thumb stop, but when people are scrolling and they just slam that thumb down, they're like, what the heck did I just see? That's what you're trying to do. And you can do that anywhere with any house and make it a unique experience. The way that you do it and what you're going to put there depends on the market that you go into. So we used to do a lot of consulting with it. We don't have as much time for it anymore, but basically, like if you've got a place downtown Seattle, you're not going to try and build a hot tub in a cliff because there's no cliffs, right? But you could make it unique. You can put up some walls, put murals on them, put some really cool amenities that fit what people are coming for. So the first thing that I always say is like figure out who your target market is and don't have two. Right? Because a lot of people are like, well, I want to go towards families, but then also it works for couples. And I'm like, well, do you want high chairs or do you want like bean bags and big TVs? Like, it's up to you. So pick one and figure out who's the most common people that's coming there right now. AI is really good for that. Take all your reviews and just ask AI who's your target market. They'll tell you. Really lean into that and then find something that you would be really impressed by if you were scrolling Instagram and then implement it in the most unique and like abstract way possible. That could be just accent walls. It could be the angle at which you put it. It could be that you've got like a covered patio going this way with a roof going this way on one side and a roof going this way on the other. And the way that they cross just looks really cool. So just really thinking through some of those details at how you're going to position it. And then, like you said, it doesn't have to be every single aspect of your place. Like if you've got that one thing that stops the scroll, use that over and over and over again.
What are y'all doubling down on your marketing? Like, are y'all running paid ads? Are you doing mostly organic social? Like, what have you seen kind of be your bread and butter for everything?
So we've got a few different fronts. We've got paid ads, organic social, and email list that we're going to. Primarily TikTok and Instagram for all of our organic, primarily Instagram for our paid. That being said, one of the things that I was really excited about when I left marketing and came into the short-term rental space full-time was marketing had all the data in the world. It was almost too much, right? The short-term rental space didn't have a whole lot. So I was excited to find ways to pull that data, and it actually is a lot more challenging than I thought until recently. I signed up for Key Data, and they have completely like opened the doors as to the geographies that our customers are coming from, our highest value per location, like that kind of thing, booking lead times and how to set up dynamic pricing, all that kind of stuff. So that being said, what we're doing now is more data driven than it ever has been. So we're running ads for us to Indiana, Chicago, and Kentucky, right, of all places, because Chicago has our highest revenue per visitor coming in. So we run giveaway ads. So it's just information to collect their email. And then we do a weekly newsletter that announces, whoever the giveaway winner is. We do a lot of organic social. Jordan handles all of that, just crushes it. And then we take all of our best performing organic social and boost it through ads as well.
Amazing advice you just dropped. I tell people all the time, if you have a organic post that does well, that is your ad right there for paid ads. You don't just make a Joe Schmo ad and hope it does well. Like, that is your test. But I have not heard anybody, and I had talked to tons of people, I was just kind of mind blown by the fact that you are targeting, knowing who is coming from what market and has the highest value or lifetime value of them coming, and then you're doing more targeted ads towards that. So that's amazing.
I had the impression that everybody around, like we're centrally located between a lot of big cities, right? Like Nashville, Richmond, Louisville, Cincinnati. So people can come from anywhere. So I was like, I'm just going to hit all those markets. That's great, right? Well, everybody that comes to visit us that spends any sort of money is from north of Kentucky. So the Florida people, they're going to Blue Ridge. The Nashville people have a bunch of places to go to down there. So whatever the reason that's driving it is, Indiana was just close, and Chicago was the big eye opener, and then Wisconsin had some too. I think personally what it is the weather starts to get bad up there. Everybody wants to go visit somewhere, and they find, a little bit south is us. But that being said, once we found that, we just restructured everything to really lean into that.
That's awesome. Amazing advice. Hopefully anybody listening to this is really taking this, to heed right now, because you're dropping some major gems for them. As we kind of get towards the end of it and say somebody's listening to this and they're kind of on the fence, or they're maybe a little nervous about going all in on, a market or a property and putting in some really unique feature. What do you think is something actionable for them to do today to either, boost their confidence in going forward with that, or make a better data-driven decision besides all the gems you've already dropped?
Where we start, where everybody that we've ever talked to has trouble, is identifying your target market and then validating what it is that you want to do. So we are right now going really heavy into couples. Right? The couples that are coming here, so they could be birthday, anniversary, like just visiting, doesn't really matter, but couples, and more so on the rest side of couples than the active side. So we differentiate based on that. Do we want a Peloton, or do we want a big couch where you can sprawl out on, kind of thing? So we're going into the rest side of couples. Hot tubs fit really well into that, right? Go disconnect, enjoy yourself. That being said, I first find the target market. whatever it is that you want to do to find your target market, make sure that they come to your area and that your house is equipped to host them or hold them and have everything that they need. But then take the idea that you have and talk to 25 random people that are in relationships, right? Would you stay here? Do you like this? Is there something different that we could see? Something that both Jordan and I ran into in the beginning was we asked all our family members. They do. They like everything I say. I could tell them that I'm going to go walk out in traffic and they'd be like, oh, that's cool. Like, where are you going to do it? It's just not a good use point or metric point for you to really validate an expensive idea. So I say, go to the gym, go to the store and just strike up random conversations with people and say, I have this idea. Can I have 5 minutes of your time to give me your feedback? And you'll get a lot better feedback than you will from your family.
You never know who you may meet too. You maybe somebody wants to be an investor or a builder or whatever, so that's awesome advice, man. Like definitely y'all are crushing it. You're doing it at a high level compared to a ton of other people. So I hope people really are paying attention to this. Where could people connect with you if they want to ask you a couple questions or just even learn more about everything you're doing and follow your journey?
Yeah, thehideaways.co. That has everything, all of our contact information, story about it, all the people that work with us, all of our units, everything.
Nice. I will link everything in the description as well. And Mike, I really appreciate you joining and giving some gems out there for everyone. And we will continue to watch your journey. I can't wait to see the silos come about. If anybody is watching all the way through to this, please hit subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you want us to bring Mike back in a few months or, next year when he's already launched these new badass properties, and we'll keep watching from there. And if you made it this far, we'll see y'all in the next one. Take care.